The classroom went dead silent. Every eye turned toward the trembling boy standing beside his desk, a shy, soft-spoken Indigenous student named Eli Whitecloud. Mrs. Porter's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Maybe if you people spent less time playing in the woods and more time studying, you'd actually pass something for once. Her words hit harder than any slap. The class gasped. A few students looked down, pretending to read their textbooks. Others glanced at Eli, their faces full of pity and fear. Eli's throat tightened. He hadn't done anything wrong. He had just mispronounced a word during his oral presentation. That's all. But Mrs. Porter wasn't done. "This is Canada, Eli," she said sharply. "We speak English here. Not, whatever that was." Her tone dripped with sarcasm, and the sound of quiet snickering spread across the room. Eli's face burned. His hands shook as he gathered his papers. Then, click. From the back of the room, a phone camera light flashed on. Someone was recording. Mrs. Porter didn't notice. She kept going, her voice growing louder, angrier, as if humiliating Eli in front of everyone was part of the lesson. "Honestly, the school keeps talking about diversity and inclusion, but how are we supposed to learn if students like you can't even?" "That's enough." The voice came from the doorway. It was Mr. Campbell, the principal, a calm, well-respected man known for his fairness. Everyone froze. Even Mrs. Porter stepped back, her face pale. Mr. Campbell's tone was quiet, but his eyes were blazing. "Mrs. Porter, I'd like to see you in my office. Now." The class erupted into whispers. Eli stared at the floor, holding back tears. He had never seen an adult speak up for him before, not like that. As Mrs. Porter followed the principal out, the camera phone turned off. But it was too late. The video had already been uploaded. Eli had woken up early in his small home on the edge of the reservation. His grandmother had made him bannock and tea, her way of saying good luck. He had practiced his presentation for days. It was about the history of Indigenous resilience in Canada, about how his ancestors had survived, rebuilt, and kept their traditions alive despite everything. He was proud. Nervous, yes, but proud. When he reached Maple Grove Secondary, the halls buzzed with chatter. Posters about Cultural Appreciation Week were everywhere. Ironically, Mrs. Porter had organized it. She had always seemed polite, until Eli spoke in class. Until his accent slipped through. That was when everything changed. At lunch, whispers spread like wildfire. "Did you hear what happened in Mrs. Porter's class? Someone filmed it. It's already on TikTok." By the end of the day, the video had reached thousands of views. The caption read, "Teacher insults Indigenous student for speaking his language, watch what the principal does next." The school's inbox was flooded with emails. Parents demanded action. Local news reporters called. Even a few community leaders from nearby reservations began asking questions. Meanwhile, Eli sat in the library, staring at his phone. The comments were mixed, some defending him, others cruel. He wasn't sure how to feel. Then, an unexpected message appeared in his inbox. It was from Principal Campbell. "Eli, can you come to my office before you go home today? There's something important you need to know." His heart started racing. Had he done something wrong? Was he in trouble for the video? He hesitated, then walked down the empty hallway, each step echoing in the silence. He reached the principal's office door. He raised his hand to knock. And froze. From inside, he could already hear raised voices. Mrs. Porter's voice. And she sounded furious. "You're ruining my career over some kid's feelings," she shouted. "You can't fire me for telling the truth." Mr. Campbell's reply was calm, but cold. "You didn't tell the truth, Mrs. Porter. You exposed exactly who you are. There was a pause, then the sound of a drawer slamming shut. Eli's stomach churned. Something big was about to happen, something that would change everything. And when the office door finally opened, Eli was not ready for what came next. Eli's heart pounded as the office door swung open. Mrs. Porter stormed out, her face red, eyes blazing with fury. When she saw Eli standing there, she stopped dead in her tracks. "You," she hissed. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" Eli stepped back. He wanted to disappear. But before he could say a word, Mr. Campbell appeared in the doorway behind her. "That's enough, Mrs. Porter." His tone was firm, the kind of voice that made everyone stop talking. "Pack up your things," he said quietly. "You're suspended effective immediately." The hallway went completely silent. Even the janitor who was mopping nearby froze. Mrs. Porter's mouth fell open. Suspended? For what? For telling a student to learn proper English? Mr. Campbell took a deep breath. No. For publicly humiliating a child based on his culture. For violating school policy. And for bringing shame to an institution that's supposed to protect every student, not break them down. Eli couldn't believe what he was hearing. No one had ever stood up for him like that. Mrs. Porter tried to protest. "This is ridiculous. I've been teaching for 20 years. That boy," Mr. Campbell interrupted sharply, "has more courage in one presentation than you've shown in your entire career." Her face twisted with anger. She grabbed her bag and stormed off down the hall, muttering under her breath. When she was gone, Mr. Campbell turned to Eli. His voice softened. "Eli, come in. Sit down." Inside the office, sunlight poured through the blinds. A mug of cold coffee sat forgotten on the principal's desk. The air was heavy, serious, but calm. Eli sat down slowly, clutching his backpack. "Am I in trouble, sir?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Campbell shook his head. "No, son. You're not in trouble at all. In fact, you're the reason we're changing things here." "Changing things?" The principal leaned forward. They're launching an official cultural sensitivity program across the entire school board. Your courage started that." Eli blinked, stunned. He had never imagined that his pain could lead to something good. But Mr. Campbell wasn't finished. "I also spoke with the local First Nations Council. They've agreed to come in next week to hold workshops, not just for teachers, but for everyone. And they'd like you to help lead one of the sessions." Eli's jaw dropped. "Me? But I'm just a student." "A student who reminded us what respect really means," Mr. Campbell said with a smile. For a long moment, Eli didn't know what to say. He felt seen. Heard. Valued. Outside, the story was spreading fast. News outlets began covering it. In comment sections, people across Canada were talking about it, from Vancouver to Toronto, Calgary to Winnipeg. Parents praised the principal. Teachers shared the clip as a lesson on empathy. And Indigenous communities called Eli a voice for change. By the end of the week, Maple Grove Secondary was no longer known for its scandal, but for its transformation. Posters went up, respect. Inclusion. Truth. When Eli walked through the halls, people smiled at him. Some apologized for laughing that day. Others just nodded quietly, the kind of nod that meant "we see you now." But the biggest surprise came at Friday's school assembly. Mr. Campbell stepped onto the stage. The entire gym was packed. He took the mic and said, "This week, we learned something important. Kindness is louder than cruelty. And sometimes, justice doesn't come from punishment, it comes from understanding." Then he turned to Eli. "Eli Whitecloud, would you please join me on stage? The crowd erupted in applause. Eli froze in his seat, overwhelmed, then slowly made his way forward. Mr. Campbell smiled and placed a hand on his shoulder. Eli reminded us that our strength as Canadians isn't in pretending we're all the same, it's in respecting where we each come from. And in that moment, Eli wasn't just a scared kid anymore. He was a symbol of hope. Later that night, as Eli walked home under the quiet glow of streetlights, he thought about everything that had happened. For the first time in a long time, he smiled. He looked up at the stars, the same stars his ancestors once followed, and whispered, "Maybe things can change."